right, the Javelina 100, yes, that was with a J. Post-race vlog. Thanks for following along in this series. It's been a couple days after the race now. Sandy and had a long drive back from the Phoenix area, Phoenix, Arizona. It's like a 12-hour drive, so yeah, trying to put the legs up, relax. Still trying to process the race, what went down, and thanks to those that got some media clips and pictures we'll show as B-roll in this, because I don't have a ton, but I wanted to go over the data, what went wrong, what went right. First of all, yeah, thanks to title sponsor Hoka, another sponsor Koros for the support, plugs like that. Of course, my parents were out there helping Sandy crew for me. Javelina is a really unique race because it's 100 miles out in the desert in the fall in the US, but it's still relatively warm and sunny. Not humid, but sunny and intense. I think it probably got up to the 80s, which is actually cooler than last year. That's an important consideration. Put that in Celsius there for the heat out in the sun in the desert. And it's a loop course, so you're doing 5 laps essentially. The first lap's a little different. It's a little longer. It's like 35K, 22.5 miles. And then each lap after that's about 19.5 miles, 19.4 miles. So that's just on like 31K. And so you're doing these laps over and over and over. You're seeing people, you're lapping some people. There was 2 wave starts. It's such a big 100. It's actually it's by far the largest 100-mile ultramarathon, 160K ultramarathon I've ever done in the US that you can do, I think, besides Leadville. Leadville's maybe slightly larger. I was talking to Air Viper Running's Jamil Curry, and he was mentioning that maybe, depending on the year, some of the finisher rate at Javelina is quite high. So the number of finishers doing the 100-mile distance actually is sometimes higher than Leadville, which may, depending on the year, have a lower finisher rate. But for North American ultras, for the 100-mile distance, this is a really, really big one. And it's a really exciting party atmosphere. It's Halloween weekend. People are in costumes. It's a big party out in the desert because they have what they call Tent City. And I could show you some of the live footage, thanks to their streaming they had, of this setup around the start-finish area where people set up big 10 by 10, 3 meter by 3 meter aid station tents for their runners, for a community of runners. And you have just a bunch of those, like hundreds of them. So the crew is seeing all their runners do this out and back by the start-finish every single lap they come around. Plus there's party themes, aid stations on the course with volunteers in Halloween costumes, which very thankful for that. But cut to the chase here. 8th place overall, 7th male, 13:34 for the 100-mile distance. New PR. It was a new PR. It was one of my goals was to set a faster time, and it was a blazing fast time. Unfortunately, it didn't place me as well as it would have in previous years, and as well as I ideally think I could have run. But meeting that goal, getting to the finish, earning that belt buckle. I'll have a picture of the belt buckle there, as well as my Hoka Rocket X3 shoes that I wore, road shoes, throwing a little risk out there. The trail was a little more rocky and sandy in places than I thought it would be, and the vertical was significant even though it was relatively flat and fast and runnable. It's not a mountain race, right? So, you know, meeting those goals, finishing strong. Strong is a relative term. For me, it meant not walking a lot, and I definitely probably walked most on the second to last lap. I was stopping and throwing up, more on that later. But thankfully pacers are allowed for the elites in this race. And thankfully, my strong crew chief leader, Sandy, my partner in life and in business in running, was able to jump in and pace me on the final lap and give me that extra boost to finish, I'd say, relatively strong. It wasn't like I was mowing people down like I envisioned, but I got out of my funk a bit and was able to run some faster mile splits and not be walking as much and feeling super dizzy like I did in the middle. So what went right, what went wrong? I met my initial goals, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that finish. I'm proud of gutting it out when things got tough. Ideally, it wasn't a perfectly clean race in the sense that I did have GI issues, and it's been something I've been working on. But I worked through a lot of demons over the 100K distance, got some PRs en route, and finished, you know, like I said, the 100-mile distance has always been a struggle. So just finishing the thing is a huge step forward. Running at this fast of a pace and managing it better than I have in the past is a huge step forward. If I was going to grade myself overall, I'd give myself maybe a B minus though, because I think there's still room for improvement. There's still room, you know, cracking 13 hours would have been a lot better. I think I had that in my legs. I didn't have that obviously on the day, but there was a lot of wasted time with the stomach issues that I encountered. And, you know, the benefit of hindsight, we could go back to my drink mix I was really excited about. I think it worked really well. But if we look at Strava, if we look at Coros, actually let's pull up the training hub on Coros first. Shout out to them. You can see the effort. Average heart rate was only 126, 127. That's a low zone 2 for me. I was hoping it could be pushed up into the 130s. I said if I could hold, you know, 133 average heart rate, that means I'm generating a lot more power. I'm running a lot more sub 7-minute miles, sub 8-minute miles. And I was running slightly over 8-minute mile pace, slightly over 5 minutes per kilometer pace, which I didn't want to do that big of a positive split, but it was kind of inevitable in the heat of the afternoon for everyone. I just wish there wasn't such a big meltdown in the middle of the race. So, you know, we're going out fast. The pack's going out, you know, David Roach, Will Murray, the Canyon Woodward, bunch of guys, super fast, going for the golden ticket. I'm trying to be patient outside of the top 10 in the first lap, and I come through the first marathon in 3:04. That's a net uphill split for the first marathon on trails, and granted it isn't the heat of the day, it was still relatively comfortable. Once that sun came up, you could definitely feel some heat. Well, we started in shorts and singlets, and that was the theme all day, right? So, and you're running with a headlamp for the first hour because it's dark. So there's that. There's some sandy parts on the trail that were washed out. There's some uneven rock. A lot of people are in super shoes though. So I'm going out fast, 650 per mile pace, sub, you know, not quite sub 3 hour marathon, but sub 3 hour marathon pace through the first 20 miles, 32K. And then still rolling that. We'll pull up the Strava activity here. We could see, you know, the elevation gain, the splits. Each lap, you know, you go up for 10 miles, 16K, and then you go down. The downhills, I mean, there were some low 6-minute miles in there for me, which was a little reckless, but I was like, you know what? If the legs can handle the pounding, you got to go for it, right? The heart rate's still staying in control. Breathing was in control initially. That was good. So the pulmonary embolism effects didn't seem to be too much of a chore, although it seems to hurt my economy. Now, as the heat of the day went on, as the miles stacked up, came through halfway in 6:05, right, through 50 miles. You know, that was a PR split for trails technically because my best at Lake Sonoma, which did have a lot of climbing, is like 6:11 or 6:12, I forget exactly, but I was like, well, that's a trail PR through 50 miles. Even the 50K split was like 3:40 something, which may have beat my best chucking at 50K time. So we're flying, but I'm barely moving up into the top 10. I eventually did have a great point in the middle where I was in 5th place. So you could see it on the Great Mountain Outpost. Shout out to them for this live coverage. They're commentating, streaming the whole thing. They had the drone footage, people running with stabilizers, gimbals, doing the whole thing into the aid station area where my parents and Sandy were waiting in the Hoka tent, thanks to Hoka, for the crew. I'm starting to struggle though at this point because I'm 3 laps in, almost 100K in. I split 100K in about 750, which was also beating my best Bandera 100K trail ultra time.
Good job, Sage.
Well done, Sage.
Doing well.
Thank you.
You've got this.
Good.
And I'd say it was at that point where I was getting a little frustrated because my stomach felt a little off. I said, I am done with my drink mix. I'm so proud of my homemade powder drink mix. I was getting tired of filling the Ziploc bags at the aid stations, mixing it with water. I'm trying to piece together the exact carb and fluid rate that I had during the race, but things started going off plan there. And when things go off plan, you're not thinking straight. I don't know if I'm sipping 100 mil or 200 mil of plain water at the aid stations because I'm like, give me some swigs of water. I'm taking some swigs of water. I'm taking some chips on the side. Now, they didn't have Lay's potato chips at the aid stations. They had like Pringles potato chips. Well, I don't know how much exactly the sodium that is, but you know, I had my potato chips. I had my pickle juice. I actually started drinking out of the jar of pickle juice in the aid station because I think I needed more salt. But again, the benefit of hindsight, I start crunching the numbers, running the numbers on my spreadsheet. I realized that the more plain water I drank, the more it diluted my relative sodium concentration, but also the fact that I had salt stick pills in my naked belt in a Ziploc bag that had unknowingly I hadn't sealed, and it came undone, and the pills must have just spilled out on the trail because I reached in to get my not salt stick pills, which are, you know, roughly 260 milligrams of sodium each, and I had 0. So then I'm scrambling to get salt pills at the aid station, which I don't know the nutrition facts on. They ended up being like half the sodium of my other pills, and I wasn't taking very many. So long story short, probably not taking enough salt still. The sodium level was dropping to, you know, 500, 400 milligrams of sodium per liter of fluid being drunk. The other thing that I messed up on, and, you know, full disclaimer, I'm learning from these things. The nutrition mistakes are what seem to hold me back the most. There's things I tinker with my training now as a benefit in hindsight, now that I know the course too. Generally consistent higher mileage over 100 miles a week would have been better. More up-tempo workouts would have been better. More hip flexor stretching would have been better. But the legs were not the limiting factor. It was this dehydration that turned into stomach issues, which has probably been the common theme of all my meltdowns in hundreds. I just managed it maybe slightly better here. But I'm struggling on the 4th lap, splitting 100K in under 8 hours. But 8 hours in is when, you know, the heat of the afternoon's on everyone. I'm passing lapped runners, offering encouragement. I start not passing them though, and I start walking and throwing up. So I'm dry heaving, then I'm throwing up. I'm losing my fluid. I'm dry heaving, throwing up in the desert. The gel is coming out. It's all orange, right? SIS beta fuel was going down well. Nothing's going down well. Stomach's on edge. Getting really dizzy. I recognize that it's a dehydration bonk instead of a low carb bonk though. I could still run relatively well if it wasn't for the extreme nausea and dizziness I'm experiencing. But the dehydration bonk feels like a low glycogen bonk also. It kind of makes your muscles turn to cement. I have chest pain. I have stomach pain. The muscles are getting stiff, right? So it's not good. You're not thinking clearly. And I'm still trying to piece together exactly what I did in some of those middle aid stations where I didn't have my drink mix, but I'm managing this up on this uphill. We get to a little downhill, I start running. I totally trip over a rock. It's not a technical trail, but there's enough little rocks that if you trip and fall, and I Superman out. You could still see my hand here. I Superman out, I smash my left knee into a rock. I'm just bleeding, and I'm thinking, gosh, my race is over. I might need stitches. And you know, the nice runners around me are trying to help me, and they, you know, were worried about me. But I actually was in so much pain, I started running again at that point. And I realized I probably don't need stitches. It's bleeding pretty bad, but it's not hampering my stride. It's not a bone injury. I, you know, scraped myself up pretty bad, but that's par for the course, right? So I'm dehydrated. I tried to refill with ginger ale or Sprite, I don't even know, ginger ale at the next aid station, Jackass Junction. Shout out to them. Get some ice in there. I chug two bottles of water. So a liter of plain water. I take a couple salt pills, but they're the Goo brand salt pills, which I didn't know only had 140 milligrams of sodium, which in hindsight is not nearly enough for the concentration that I want. But I'm chugging water. I instantly almost throw up. Leaving the aid station, I'm walking, I'm stopping. It's not good. It's not looking good. There's some really slow mile splits in there. People are passing me. I'm losing places again. So that was not ideal. That was not ideal, not something I'm proud of, but I fought through it. And I'm going down to the next aid station. It's a nice, runnable, downhill, smooth, really flowy trail, nice and soft. The Rocket X3s are still holding up from Hoka. Didn't have to have any shoe changes. Didn't get any blisters, major foot blisters. Thanks out to Squirrel Nut Butter, product plug. And I look to sip. I'm looking forward to this ginger ale, even though my stomach's still on edge, but I'm like, you need to sip some sugar, some calories, right? Probably still not enough sodium though. And I realized my bottle's empty already because it's been leaking. Because when I fell, I punctured it unknowingly. I punctured the bottom of my fluid bottle, and so all the fluids just leaked out, and I have nothing to drink between the aid stations. And I was carrying 2 bottles, but the other one's in the back of my belt, and it's empty also. So it doesn't do you any good when you have 2 empty bottles between aid stations. Now that being said, even if I had some extra water to sip at that point, which I tried to at the next aid station, I ended up throwing it up almost instantly, so there was that. But you know, I was thinking clearly enough and knowing that I was struggling enough that I said, Sandy, get ready to pace me on this last lap because I'm going to need it. And we're going to need our headlamps because we're going to be finishing in more darkness than I wanted to. Last hour was probably dark, but Sandy was up to the challenge even after crewing in the hot sun with my parents all day and being on her feet and doing a long run up a mountain the day before. And so we're rolling, and it's the second time I've ever had a pacer in a race. Usually don't have the luxury of having a pacer, but also haven't done that many hundreds where pacers are allowed anyway. And the moral support was amazing. It helps that Sandy knows me. She's a coach. She knows how to motivate and push me. And just the cues with running form, relaxing my breathing, relaxing my shoulders, getting belly breathing, reminding me to eat and drink. You know, pacers can't mule for you at all. You still have to be independent and do your own thing. But you know, letting people that were coming up behind them so we don't spook them in the dark. There's a lot of runners you're overlapping with, so you know, a nice on your left, cheer people on for you so you don't have to talk is a huge energy savings, especially on the narrow single track sometimes when you have to make some passing maneuvers. And I'm just trying to not walk again. I'm trying not to throw up too much. I did throw up. I got one gel down. I was able to power up a couple miles, but then I'm puking again. And it's just a balance of stomach sloshing where I could hear the fluid sloshing into my stomach. It means it's not getting absorbed. I'm trying to drink water. I'm trying to drink ginger ale. I'm totally done with gels. I'm done with my drink mix. I had some sodium pills, but I think it was a little too late. The good thing is the sun was setting at that point. Things were getting cooler. Sandy got some great shots on the course there. And so she's able to motivate me and push me. I'm still not closing down super fast. And actually, shout out to the women's champion, Tara Dower. Amazing race. She passed me in the last aid station. I threw up quite a bit right after that. So probably threw up maybe 10 times in the last 40 miles. But Tara Dower smashing it down, course record, 13:30 basically. Amazing performance. Hat off to her. I moved back to 8th place overall then, but 7th in the men's race, which, you know, I did lose a couple places. I wanted to be more top 3, top 5. I wanted to be sub 13 hours. Shout out to Will Murray, who ended up winning the race in a course record, 12:20, 12:10. Don't want to sell him short there. So you beat it by a half hour. So it's 12:10 something. I'll put the times up, the winners there. But shout out to the podium, the golden ticket winners, people that finished ahead of me, all the runners that finished, honestly, or didn't finish. Anyone who had the courage to toe the starting line out there, joined in on the party. A lot of really creative costumes and a very festive atmosphere that I really enjoyed. And yeah, so can't say much more about that, but it definitely lit a fire, and I want to lower that 100-mile PR. I want to lower my times at 100K and optimize my fueling and hydration strategy, because I think there's still some room for improvement there, and that's what we're always trying to find, is process for improvement. But yeah, thanks to Sandy, thanks to my parents for crewing out there, thanks to all the supporters, all the offers of encouragement, the media. Again, check out the links in the description below. Thanks to title sponsor Hoka, keeping the dream alive still. We're still rolling. Probably not going to race anymore this year, but looking at future events now through a different lens. And again, trying to learn, progress. Oh, shout out, I will be in the New York City Marathon watching this weekend, New York City Marathon. If you're there, we got a group run at 10 a.m. from the Hoka flagship store on 5th Avenue. We're going to run towards Central Park, easy 3 miles, 5K. You could sign up at the RSVP link below, but check that out. That is Saturday morning, November 2nd, 10 a.m. from the Hoka flagship store. I'm going to be there with Team Stop the Clot, the National Blood Clot Alliance. I've been helping coach consult their group running, but also Hoka's doing the shakeout run there, so be sure to join in for that. Hope to see you there if you're in the New York City area marathon weekend this weekend. Thanks so much again for all the views on here, all the Patreon supporters, keeping this channel alive. Just subscribing, watching, liking these videos means the world to me, so really do appreciate all your support. Again, shout out to Higher Running. We sell training plans there for any service, any distance. Thank you again. Hope you're doing well, and stay tuned for more via 2Max Productions.
Hydrated and clumsy and tired. I was in a really rough patch there. Thanks again, babe.
Yeah, of course.
Sandy saved me in the last lap. I would have thrown in the